Welcome, everybody, to the Don't Be Misled podcast. This will be a series of podcasts over the next 2 weeks. Today was the final day of advance voting. If you did vote, thank you very much for exercising your right to vote. These series of podcasts, including tonight, Don't Be Misled, is for the undecided voter, the voter that isn't necessarily interested in the past, can't really see myself voting this time around. This is the audience that I want to reach over the next 2 weeks. If you're a Canadian resident and you have a Toronto qualifying address, I urge you, it is imperative to get out and vote. Now, you can vote for me. You have a choice of 102 candidates. The specifics of this live stream is to reflect that in the event that you're not paying attention, I will be as concise as possible to give you straight to the point, the heart of the matter, reflections that I have about this campaign, of what I learned thus far, and for all the talk and all the chatter of the top 5, top 6, top 7 candidates. It seems to me on a day-to-day basis, the media has a attitude of which way the wind is blowing. Sometimes they'll focus on the top 5, the top 6, or the top 7. Now, in 2 weeks' time, on Monday, June 26th, at right around this time, the polls will be closed and a new mayor will be selected. I ask for your vote Monday, June 26th, to elect me mayor of City of Toronto. What I have to offer in comparison to other people for how the top 5, top 6, top 7 are garnering the majority of all the headlines. One person said this today, and the other person might rearrange the other person's words, and they put out the same type of fare. The mislead that is going on right now is a very, very lightly superficial scratch the surface of people talking into a microphone, and they're not necessarily reflecting the actual needs and concerns of what's going on in Toronto right now. And I want to put a stop to that. I want to eat their lunch. I want to encourage people that haven't voted yet to go out and vote for Peter Hanges on Monday, June 26th. Now, the heart of the matter. First and foremost, there's word right now that if the number one person that's getting all the press, they being the most prominent of all candidates as far as past political careers, this person here, if elected, will bring the city into a look and feel and operation that's never been seen before, and not for the better. Recently, the TTC was granted by the courts that they have a right to strike again. Many years ago, the Toronto City Council put forward a bylaw, and I guess with the help of the province at the time, to have the TTC operate as an essential service, meaning in plain English that the TTC would be stuck, not to be in a bargaining position, not to strike. As with any job, its membership, being unionized, will have their concerns, and that right was taken away from them. Now, with the TTC being in a position to strike, it's tentative at some point next year whoever is mayor, that they would have to contend with something like this. The top person will be pushed into a corner and cave in to whatever demands that might be brought forward. Now, I have no problem with public labor. I have no problem with unionized labor. I believe that I can offer them, when it's time, when they make it official, that they're in a position to bargain to renew contracts. I think I can offer them a really, really good carrot, because my position with the TTC is to actually, between the City of Toronto, the Mayor's Office, Toronto City Council, Toronto's planning departments, along with the TTC, to have a renewed, focused, disciplined approach for the TTC and the City of Toronto to get back into the business of digging subway tunnels. The current planning is basically adding additional streetcar lines where it doesn't make sense. For years, subways, and for all the confusion, misappropriation of planning and dollars, don't expect the crosstown LRT to come online anytime soon. I'll get into that in a little bit. Subways, subways, subways. If I'm elected mayor, it would be within the top 5 priorities of things to do sitting in as an elected mayor, to summon all the available minds, not outsiders, from the TTC, people in the planning department, and participation from the province, to sit down and actually talk about extending Shepherd going east. That should have been done a long time ago. Under the former Delta McGuinty government, they thought it best that the TTC no longer participate in big construction jobs, namely subway tunnels. I don't agree with that. I think the TTC should get back into the business of getting into digging subway tunnels. Now, getting back to the strike of things. What is being misled is where you have all the top 5 candidates, 6, 7, taking a position to pledge, if I'm elected mayor, yes, more public transit, but nothing cohesive, nothing constructive, nothing concise is being spoken of. I can understand, for the amount of time a news broadcast, radio, TV may put together a package to show the public where there's time sensitivity. So let's compress it. But even with that time compression, the person that's being interviewed, given microphone time, they need to be clear where the approach, the focus, the planning, the ask of participants to sit down in front of a big table and have all necessary input of different departments to start getting into the preliminary planning of extending the Shepherd subway from Don Mill Station, in my view, all the way to Kennedy and Shepherd as the first phase. And in the second phase, from Kennedy Station, Kennedy and Shepherd, to go into the Pickering Town Center. Now, that part of the world is one of the most heavily used surface routes as far as bus goes in the City of Toronto. For all the talk about reducing carbon emissions and everything about climate, wouldn't it be wise to electrify public transportation eastward from Don Mill Station in that upper tier okay, of the city of Toronto, formerly known as Scarborough. To go to Kennedy and Shepherd as a first phase would make a lot of sense because you also have a lot of bus routes intermingling in that area. I intend, okay, to put forward, if elected mayor, a preliminary plan to outline this. And there will be participation between the federal and provincial governments toward funding. What the federal and provincial governments are looking for, as far as leadership coming out of City Hall, is to be concise with an actual plan for that money to be funded. Because in past years, whatever has been allocated from either the province or the federal government, the money was to be put to work in a certain way. But when people change the planning in midstream, so instead of a right-of-way streetcar, like St. Clair West, we'll just say that as an example, and that money is redirected elsewhere towards construction province, for concrete rehabilitation for streetcar lines, and then the TTC comes back looking for more money and more money. This is where the city is right now, where it can't catch up with the amount of money that's going out towards these projects, where at one point it was supposed to be towards the planning, the purchase, and the construction in a certain manner, and nobody paid mind coming out of City Hall to say, well, for the money that was put aside and directed to you, it's not being fulfilled. Nobody pushed back. Nobody asked questions. Our former mayor is a champion of the word salad, and in the end, for the 8 years that he held office, and with a re-election back in October of last year, there was no real significant reflection that could be pointed at that our former mayor could say that, hey, I was responsible for something unique for the city. So I want to get everything public transit out of the way first. I want the people of Toronto to know that you could have a mayor with competence. You could have a mayor that can give transparency. Okay? No special request necessary for this approach to be given to the people. Whether you're a taxpayer that owns property, or if you're a business owner and your taxes go to the city, or you're just going about your day-to-day. However you're paying and generating revenue into the city of Toronto, I want you to feel, if I'm elected mayor, that the money will be distributed and allotted in a smart, disciplined approach to make the city better. We're 25, 30 years behind in public transit. Crosstown LRT on Eglinton Avenue. I'll let you come up with the catchphrases. Okay, I think it's just really, really sad that it'll probably be another 4 years before Crosstown LRT comes online, goes through its tests, and is able to take passengers. For all other TTC projects, okay, that are on the books, waiting for a go-ahead, I don't think it would be necessary for a harborfront LRT. The density isn't there. Usually in past years, if a certain portion of the city is to be redeveloped, there used to be old warehouses, there used to be factories. You need to have soil contamination reports coming back where a developer would invest their money. It doesn't matter what the development is. It could be condominiums, it could be office towers. Real estate being at a premium, the future forward is going to be up. It'd be nice to have additional homes with green backyards. If the city's availability of overall land is at a premium, and you want to address housing issues, there's nowhere to go but up, building towers. Okay, that's the sad reality. It could be achieved in a smart, well thought out plan, not for the sake of just throwing up a building. Because the approach that's been happening over the last 15 years, somebody that has the money, they'll start purchasing this building and that building. They wait for another building to come up for sale. They land that. And before you know it, from tear down, clear it all out, and start building again, you might have 4, 5, 600 units of condo coming online. The threshold percentage that the city requires from the developer at 30% of what the overall amount of unit is going to be within that building, within that project, I think is very low. To sideswipe a developer with new rules and saying instead of 30% of new units are supposed to be for geared toward housing or affordable housing, I think the City of Toronto should have a new approach. And by request, when a developer submits plans, this is what I intend to do. This is how far up I want to go, how wide. The city can counter the proposal to say, would you like to partner with the City of Toronto, where if you're proposing 300 units, a combination of 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, bachelors, and tell the developer, or at least to ask them, for the 300 that you're asking, could you build for the City of Toronto additional units at what the expense is on a per unit basis that it'd be costing you, and in exchange, we waive the percentage requirement as it is right now, and to sweeten the deal for the developer, because in the end, it's return on investment. You're asking for 300 units? How about 400 units? The extra 100 units belong to the city for affordable, geared to income housing, and you build your units the way you wanted, locked in. Any developer or associate of a developer that I've talked to over the last month or so seem to be in agreement, because it just furthers their investment. Nobody's talking about this in this precise manner. Like I said, please pay attention over the next 2 weeks now that advance voting is closed, and hear the type of talk that's coming out of the top 5, top 6, top 7. In order for me to earn your vote, I'm not going to offer pleasantries of happy talk. A lot of happy talk has occurred. You might have heard advertising by certain candidates, how they're going to make things affordable and how they're going to make things, great and loving. That's not the case, because the stress cracks that are within the fabric of the mosaic of our city right now will only get worse. Those cracks will start to appear relatively immediately if the top candidate that's getting all the press, all the fanfare, gets elected. It's an absolute certainty, because for all of how this one candidate has acquired her political fortunes, holding different levels of office. And not too long ago, back in the 2010s, this candidate made a run for mayor and didn't do well. All of a sudden, she's being parachuted in as the way to go, okay? The favorite flavor that could offer a real setback and demise for the city as it is right now. Getting back to affordable housing, you might have heard advertising or in news coverage that this particular candidate wants to build affordable housing on either side of the lakeshore where the current construction is going on with the Gardner Expressway. The heck with the Gardner Expressway. Let's tear it all down, clean up the mess, and build affordable housing on either side of the lakeshore. And put flower planters in the middle of the road, just like University Avenue. Well, this is where I got the inspiration to title this live stream, Don't Be Misled. Because in that corridor of the Gardner Expressway, Lakeshore, CN Rail has right of easement for their tracks. So unless CN Rail made a pact between the top candidate that's getting all the press, hey, when you get elected, we will get rid of our title of easement. Those tracks, they might not be utilized every day with heavy industry, because the city of Toronto has pushed out a lot of industry. You can't do that. You can't mislead people. Sure, we need affordable housing. To tear down the Gardner Expressway once and for all, you just alienated a quarter of the population. Never mind a quarter of the vote. You will force industry to leave there. Canada Post has its hubs. All the top couriers downtown have their hubs. They have a reliance on the Gardner Expressway. If you've driven within the last month on the lakeshore, because of whatever construction is going on right now between the lakeshore and the Gardner Expressway, it is just madness. Could you imagine getting rid of that once and for all and reducing it as far as lane capacity for cars? These people offer happy talk, okay? Because they figure if I'm going to get any traction to catch attention, to garner favor with potential voters, I'm going to pull heartstrings. What did that person say? Oh, they intend to do something about affordable housing. Well, good for them. Maybe I'll vote for them. If you're going to reflect a vote, take to heart and listen over the next 2 weeks in any type of media that you may follow daily, a couple of times a day, once a day. For how long? For 5 minutes? For a couple of half hours during the day? What's being talked about, say, in the morning, on the way home from work, or once you got home from work? My point being that the happy talk will intensify. The planning to be really constructive in thinking, to present to the public, it still will lack. Now, I've touched on public transit. I think safety within public transit is a very, very big deal. When you have the City of Toronto locked in to contracts to house people from 2016, 2017, 2018, things weren't so bad. Sure, you might have had, at the eye level, going about your business downtown, you might find the odd homeless here and the odd homeless there. Well, because it was a city-led initiative where the city with private contractors, hotels, motels, people that probably weren't doing so well with Airbnb. The city housed these people, and once pandemic restrictions started to lift and people started to reacquire with day-to-day life, these people that entered into the city, okay, with agreements to house, they no longer wished to renew contracts. So the city had to reacquire these human souls, and they came up with a really, really great idea. We're going to instruct social agencies that we provide funding for and have these people, their staff members, tell these souls to ride the public transit system day, night, as a point of being sheltered. Give them a reloadable card at about maybe $5-6 a day so they can get themselves a cup of coffee, maybe a sandwich. And the rest is very, very troubling, where a person that may have an aspect of mental health, drug addiction, being isolated inside one of these units that the city had rented, and now they're being faced on the street. Don't take my word for it. As you walk about and go on your day-to-day, and all of a sudden you happen to look over your shoulder because you hear somebody yelling. They're not necessarily yelling at a friend, "Hey, I'm over here, how you doing?" It's somebody that's having something episodic about them, because now they're interacting in the public and they just don't know exactly how to place themselves. And you can't blame them. It's not their fault. I intend, and I make a public pledge, I've done it elsewhere, and I'm going to do it here in this live stream, to pledge to take 5,000 people off the streets if I'm elected mayor within 65 working days, calendar days, not Monday to Fridays. If I'm elected mayor and I convene Toronto Public Health, Social Services, within the grasp of the mayor's office, to summon all departments, okay, and their corresponding staff, to go out and look for these people. See exactly, even the city of Toronto right now doesn't know how many homeless. I'm willing to bet 5,000 people are out there right now. So, for where you may be sitting, watching this live stream, there's people out there that need help. My approach, once elected mayor, is to put a specific task force coming out of the mayor's office to address this problem. Delegate authority and instruct city staff specifically to go out and find these people, have an accounting, see what type of numbers are actually out there. In the meantime, within the 65-day plan, I plan on utilizing city-owned property. It could be an office building. It could be a building that is partially used for some type of warehousing, and triage all the homeless, just like a hospital, with a very specific discipline and direction. You have homeless right now living in Allen Gardens. These are working poor. Most of the stories that I've heard are a result that pre-pandemic, they were just living a life. They were able to pay the rent. The cost of living, okay, wasn't the pull your hair out of your head like it has been over the last year. And when government says lockdown, shutdown, and that employer can't keep that employee can't pay their rent, they're going to find themselves in trouble. So you have encampments right now in Allen Gardens. Don't take my word for it. Drive down Sherbourne, okay, from Sherbourne and Carleton down to Sherbourne and Shooter. Have a look at Allen Gardens. It's completely tent city. Okay, something unheard of. It's never been fathomed before. And you can't blame these people. Where are they going to go? Those are working poor. Okay, they have jobs to go to in the morning, and when they come home, they want to regain their dignity in some way, and they go back to their tent. These people should be offered dedicated space. For the other homeless that are part of our society right now, when I use the word triage, it's the same approach, just like a hospital. For whatever need of mental health, it could be drug addiction, it could be alcoholism, it could be gambling, it could be a combination of. To identify these people and have an individual game plan for each and every one. At the end of the day, these people need to have a little bit of light to look forward to, the light being the light at the end of the tunnel. It could be ever so faint, it could be ever so dim, but at least if they have a half decent chance to actually catch a glimpse of the light at the end of the tunnel, it gives them hope. It gives them motivation. To further that, if they see a kind, gentle hand coming out of City Hall, that a once and for all approach to deal with these matters, okay, in a humane way, in a loving way, in a tolerating way, to be tolerant. These are the steps to take. Okay, this is the approach that should be taken. Instead, when a person has despair in their heart, when they have nothing to really look forward to, and they're caught in this never-ending cycle, okay, of not feeling well about themselves, they're gonna be in this perpetual revolving door of despair, and it is a really, really bleak and dark place. For anybody that has no idea what I'm talking about, I don't wish that for anyone, but I know, I've seen it. Once this ability of taking the homeless off the street and triaging them, this will bring confidence back in city day-to-day life for all of us, where we can ride public transit without the expectation of being approached by panhandling or whatever other means that's going on right now, and feel safer during the day, the afternoon, the evenings, and the overnights. Getting into a car, getting out of a car. People are looking and are asking, okay, public safety. As far as all the people that are getting the major press, again, they don't offer clarity. When a fellow competitor, okay, that has a lot of attention because they have a name for themselves, they've been elected before, or they have some type of, they've acquired a certain position in the city of Toronto as non-voted in, being appointed to their job, a top job. Quite honestly, these people wouldn't know if it was raining until they walked outside. That's my view. It would be nice if they could offer the public more depth, more clarity, being more definitive. But for whatever reason, they're taking to task that media is not putting flame underneath the feet to hold them accountable. So this is what's going on now as far as media. With people being taken off the street, you will have confidence of other people going about their business day to day. When this happens, people are very, very eager and interested to put money into the Toronto economy by investing in festivals, investing in concerts. Now, you have big venues. You have Rogers Center for concerts. You have amphitheater. You have Budweiser stage. There's people that want to have a more laid back approach with offering festivals and concerts. When it comes to a concert, maybe a 2,000 draw of attendance, maybe perhaps 2,500 smaller scale venues. And when they come up over the last year and take notice of how the city is being reflected to them, they have no interest to invest in dollars. With my approach, okay, of remedying the homeless situation once and for all, okay, for the immediacy, to take the pain and suffering out of people's lives, those investment dollars will come back into the city. Permit applications will increase, and not necessarily if I, as elected mayor, have anything to do with it. To have the city of Toronto in all of its entirety in different wards, because you have city park space that's available. For whatever the hesitancy may have been in the past, to talk with city councilors, I want to be cooperative. Okay, I have a lot of great ideas as far as tourism goes. And tell city council, you know what? It wouldn't be a bad idea if the city could allot a certain amount of money for the bigger parks that can hold people, that can hold stands, that can hold a stage. Either having temporary portable washrooms or appointing dollars for the construction of additional washrooms. So one of it comes one weekend, a couple of weeks go by, and that space becomes booked again. So that area starts to have a repeat customer approach. It'll be a different name, it'll be a different genre of music, or whether it's live concert, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, what I'm looking for is consistency right across the city, not necessarily in the downtown core. The downtown core is in shambles. You have Queen Street cut off between Victoria Street and Bay Street for the Ontario Line construction. You have the Gardner Expressway in a dilapidated way. So I think it would be a good idea to start bringing festivals and just normal social gatherings, okay, in the upper portion of the city. I think that the northern half of the city not only could benefit from it, but I think they would feel appreciated that there's some type of action going on. I've spoken to people and they welcome the idea. They like that sense of community. What's been lacking for a long time, and you're not hearing it from other fellow competitors of mine, but I'll say it, I think it's time not only to restore balance and equity in the city, but I think what everybody else is falling short is how they plan on restoring unity within community. Toronto's a mosaic of multi-ethnicities. And within those multi-ethnicities, you have different appeals toward different types of music and food and culture. So this past weekend was Do Fest, which was Portuguese Fest. Why not have those type of festivals anchored in different parts of the city? So if this past weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday was Portuguese Fest, have something similar. It doesn't necessarily need to be identified in culture, whether it's Greek, Portuguese, or Polish. Just have a get together, put it together, have the city authorize it, be in the planning process, okay? Not to be overly in the nostrils, okay, of who the organizers are. But as long as everything checks out, whatever the city support system could be, electricity, water, additional washrooms, in order for people to start coming out and spend money. I remember years, summers past, that in the downtown core, you would have an equal amount of American license plates to the Ontario license plate driving around downtown. This year, I've only seen probably 30 private vehicles, families, coming in up from the United States in the downtown core, utilizing a hotel, during their stay here, right? If tourism can catch fire the way I want it, then this leads to, at least temporarily as a summer job, additional employment for people that are interested in getting a second job if ends can't be met. For anybody that's promising right now that they can do something for affordability, I plan on doing something to make things affordable. You're being misled. And I'll tell you why. Because the City of Toronto has no control over the economy nationally. The City of Toronto can rein in spending and make things a little bit cheaper, depending on what you need. Maybe a cheaper business tax, maybe keeping property taxes frozen in the first 4 years. If I become elected mayor, you have to rein in spending. Okay, this is the absolute most paramount. I pledge to ask council, if I'm elected mayor, to defer the Moss Park Arena revitalization project. Okay, it's over $100 million. And right next door to it, on the same property, you have the Ontario line in preliminary construction, because there's going to be a Moss Park station for the Ontario line. I'm involved with a nonprofit group, and sometimes twice a month, sometimes 3 times a month, we all will go down and participate in feeding the homeless. If you know where this arena is, there's a lot of people down there that need help. But the city thought it as a good idea to rip another part of a community to shreds, to build a monument of ego project. It's not for what this community center is right now. I think it's serving, okay, where it needs to, okay, because you don't necessarily have people beating down the door to utilize that space. The density isn't there yet. There's proposals for additional condos and such to be built. I think this type of a project should be deferred. It's about $126 million that the city has allocated the money already. It's just final details of putting all the plans together to give the go-ahead to the contractor to go and start building it. Then you have, I believe, $115 million by the Harborfront for another version of revitalization down there, west of the Portlands, and another monument of ego. With this project, you will barely get a kilometer's worth of kayaking. They want to incorporate kayaking at about a kilometer, okay, in this stretch of development proposal. So this is the nonsense that we're dealing with right now, because when they start allotting $100 million some odd dollars for this project, and then $100 some odd million on that project, and there's more. But these are the two that I would make it a priority to defer, because the go-ahead to the contract hasn't been given. And if I'm elected mayor, I still have time to request that a deferral take place. Now, I'm running for City of Toronto Mayor. I don't want to deprive any part of the 25 wards that make up the City of Toronto. So please, a shout out and a request attention from the City of Scarborough, the City of North York, the City of York, the upper regions of Rexdale Boulevard and Etobicoke. I'm asking for your help. I'm asking for your vote. There are many people that have said to me, being longtime residents, basically north of St. Clair Avenue going upward, especially when you get to Eglinton Avenue and you start going up to Steeles from the 427 all the way to Port Union 401. Ever since amalgamation, and now with the redrawing of electoral maps from 44 city councillor seats down to 25 that was put forward a couple of years ago, when you have, it doesn't matter how you want to look at it, 44 former seats, 25 current seats, when you have 20 out of the 25 electoral ridings that make up the City of Toronto in regular time to choose mayor, to choose city councillor, to choose school trustee, those 20 out of 25 are sick and tired of paying money down to City Hall, and once it lands at 100 Queen Street West, that money is not trickling back up into those communities. I don't necessarily believe that counting on census data that the federal government puts forward for all of us to participate in, I don't think relying on census data should be the norm anymore when it comes to tending to the people's needs, building community centers, building schools, public library. I don't think my fellow competitors actually understand the concept of the 15-minute city. I do. It's very, very simple. And the best canvas for it is going to be in the upper northern, central, and eastern parts of the City of Toronto, south of the boundary of Steeles Avenue, because there's more space available. So if you were to get into a construction project that would be a school, housing, public library, main floor commercial space, not necessarily allotted or reserved for big corporations, to mirror what the presentation and the feel of Kensington Market would be, and replicate that within the concept of the 15-minute city. So you have small businesses supporting those community hubs. This is where the spirit of the 15-minute city originally lied. Okay, that was basically the thinking of it, where you have a grand community with different amenities in order to sustain itself and support itself, and you could be in one part of the development, and within a 15-minute walk, you can go get yourself something and still be within that hub. And the only time that you would need to, take TTC to come downtown for a Blue Jay game, a hockey game, or something of an event that might be happening downtown, that's the only time that you would take either your car, your bicycle, public transit, in order to leave that particular community. So I know what the underpinnings would be. I know what the concept is. People in the upper portions of the city paying into the system since amalgamation and not feeling well represented is exactly the reason why all the top 5 candidates this time round, because of a special by-election, because of our former mayor's resignation back in February, all these top 5 rediscovered Scarborough somehow. They have put campaign offices in Scarborough because of the lack of voter turnout, because of the animosity that's been festering for how many years that Scarborough isn't well represented. Mel Lastman, may he rest in peace, okay, gave it his best shot to somehow adapt to the concept of an amalgamated city because being North York mayor for how many years, people loved him. They delighted with his governance when he was City of North York mayor. When Mel Lastman assumed the chair as Toronto mayor, he started to feel the complexities and the pushback of personalities and attitudes coming out of the city of Toronto in comparison to what he was accustomed to, the day-to-day operations of the city of North York. So amalgamation, okay, could work if politicians actually paid attention to the whole canopy of what Toronto is. I intend to do that because there's so much building that could be left to undertake in downtown Toronto, whether it's office tower, whether it's hotel. Personally speaking, I think more hotels could benefit the city of Toronto. More so to the fact that if tourism increases, people need to stay somewhere. But downtown Toronto is already maxed out. So the only thing that could happen with downtown Toronto is where a building could be available that's say 25, 30 years old, and a developer with deep enough pockets starts buying additional property and, you know, kicking people out if it's an apartment building or a co-op in order to build a bigger, more massive type of a complex. Well, this is where the future of the downtown lies, because there's just no more earth to dig up to build buildings, whether it's an office tower, hotel, condominium, or mixed use like the Pantages Theater, where you have condominium units and you have residential units integrated within the overall project. So, out of all people that are running right now, that are taking all the press, I personally believe that I'd like to say that they have no idea what they're doing or talking about. But at the end of the day, it's all about motive and where agenda, okay, whose agenda are they really representing? Would that be the reason why there's no clarity? Is that the reason why there's nothing substantive in any of the proposals? Okay, you have one candidate that is never been elected, such as myself, but they held, okay, a significant position in the city of Toronto. They, over the last couple of weeks, whether in debate or offering a 30-second soundbite to media, everything that they've acquired learning in their professional capacity, but being involved in the city of Toronto, that they could put a plan together to remedy the city's problems. But the problem with that is, for the time that this one person had significant prominence, not only has lost the respect out of the union membership that he led, this person could have had the opportunity to walk into Mayor Tory's office and unannounced, knock on the door, walk on in, because he had that position. He had that power. And the secretary would look at this individual and say, "Chief, hold on a second. Let me see exactly where the mayor is at." He could have demanded to have time privately, either in the mayor's office or let's go out to lunch, because I have something significant to talk about. My membership under me, they're telling me there's increase of crime here. There's other things that the city should be looking at. The city is falling short, and it's putting too much pressure on my underlings. Okay, and we all took duty, okay, to uphold law, right? How can a person be put in a mayor's chair and say to the public whatever personal and professional experience that he's acquired, that he can do it as chief? I could just imagine if this man is elected and he sits down to a scheduled Toronto Police Service Board meeting, they're going to look at him like he doesn't matter because he's lost the confidence. That's why he left, right? How many years ago? Toronto voters, I ask you for your vote on Monday, June 26th. I bear no baggage. I have no baggage. I have no agenda. There's nobody fronting me. There's nobody behind me. Okay? I am a modest, blue-collar guy that wants the betterment for the city, for everybody to realize. I need your support. In order for me to have the city's back, I need your back with votes. Share this content. Inform your friends, your family, your neighbors, whoever it takes. Do you yourself have some type of social media presence? Please share this content. Help my name catch fire. Out of all people, right now, the top 5, top 6, top 7, as they remark that they want to be mayor of Toronto, and they have their positions and views of how the mosaic of the city is to be. Things to be noted here is that in their current life as city councilors, because you have 3 of them running, okay, and I personally believe they're doing a disservice not only to the city council position that they have, they're doing a disservice to the city of Toronto right now, because you have these people getting together at pre-scheduled council meetings. They're putting business forward, passing into law, in order for a future mayor to deal with the mess. These people should have opted out and resigned their council seat, have somebody else temporarily take that seat, and they can go out campaigning all day long. You got one council member that took the prestige and title being a part of the planning department, and this person is going about their media scrum telling people how they have great plans to remedy problems that he was a part of, that he put forward, that's choking the hell out of the city right now, especially with surface transit, okay, and surface routes for car or public transit, okay, to have some type of harmony on the road. That would be the equivalent of the arsonist lighting fire and calling 911, hey, there's a fire going on. So you got one city councilor just in that way. You have another city councilor that is really ineffective, okay, in their thinking, okay, as being a part of city council, putting proposals forward, let alone being mayor. But he thinks after a 7% property tax increase that occurred this past February, prior to our mayor, our former mayor, making his resignation official on paper, they passed the highest property tax increase in probably 35 years at 7%. It still hasn't made its way into the system yet, okay? It got passed in February, this property tax increase at 7%, the highest in the city's history. And now you have another councillor, yeah, no problem. We're just going to keep jacking taxes. You want more of this and more of that, keep jacking. The problem to contend with is to rein in spending. as I mentioned earlier, defer Moss Park, defer Harborfront. At the time, if I'm elected mayor, I would have access to other projects that could be deferred. If they've already been given a go-ahead, then we have to figure something out in order to curb spending. I'm not talking about cutting any programs. I'm not talking about cutting any services. I personally believe that the TTC cuts that were passed earlier last month were totally unwarranted. These cuts affect people that rely on public transit the most. But somehow, this arsonist, okay, that's running for mayor, was totally okay with the service cuts. Is there intentionality going on right now with the city of Toronto to start pissing off communities in order for these communities to show their their disgust or their distrust? The last thing I want, okay, is any kind of like a race riot or any kind of a, for things to become unhinged where you're denying somebody something that they were used to. These surface routes had a lot of consistency of ridership as far as the TTC surface routes, the surface routes, and now bringing the cuts forward, it doesn't make sense. Meanwhile, you have other surface routes, bus now, not streetcar, that are very well positioned, and these buses are riding day and night at half capacity, if not quarter capacity, especially at night. But the TTC, along with Toronto City Council, deems it okay to have these bus routes operating and being overly plentiful, but cutting off or reducing the amount of service in other parts of the city. I strongly believe that the city of Toronto right now, over the last probably 8 years, right? Because our former mayor was reelected back in 2022. So I'll just say the last 9 years, about 8 years to be sure. All unionized labor, along with its management, along with city staff, I just find it that there's so much animosity going on behind the scenes right now because of other decisions that were made by higher tiers, our former mayor, our councillors. Some of them got reelected back. Some of them lost their seats and gained by other people. It's like the city of Toronto right now is working to rule. If you don't know what that means, if you know anybody that's in a union and you want to show that they're not happy with management, they're not happy with their employer, they'll slow and scale back their productivity to reflect how they have an issue with upper management or an employer, so that employer can catch the attention of what is shown by unionized labor. Okay, so let's remedy a problem. We have or achieve a happy outcome and productivity goes up. Never have I would have thought that city services would fall so short on the cleanliness of the streets. You have buses that have last winter's sludge and grime and salt still on the side of the bus. You have sidewalks that have so much overgrowth from vegetation, it is just insane. Our city was never this way. Never. And if you can elect me mayor, I'll make it a point to ask all these departments Is it possible if you can go back to work as normal? Are there underlying issues that I need to know? Please show up at 7 a.m., operate that city vehicle or that city equipment. You have a good day out there, put in your 8 hours, come home, so you feel confident that you're working for an employer that takes to heart, okay, what you're going through right now, being slammed back and forth, okay, by decisions in higher tiers that under new management will take on a whole new meaning if I'm elected mayor. I think a person such as myself, like I said, I have no baggage. I'm not here as somebody's plant or a puppet. There's no agenda. Please take to heart, and it's this saying that I'm about to say has been used before, where Peter Hanges, a man of the people. I want to bring that and give it luster, okay, and appropriate it in the way that it's supposed to. All right, because it was spoken of or said in local politics not long ago, and certain things have developed or what have you, where the person that was speaking that he is a man of the people, the people have noticed a change about him. So that's between him and being reelected down the road, if he so chooses, our premier. To the benefit and to offer a kudo, okay, to our premier. He actually got things done by making Ontario a good place to invest. There's one example that I can give. Back in April, an announcement was made that between the government of Ontario, and I can't remember the name of the family or the company name, they were out of Italy. They decided to open up a North American office in London, Ontario. This family makes pastas and sausages, that type of fare. They could have chosen anywhere to invest and to set up shop, not only with headquarters, okay, but with manufacturing as well. So they decided on London. Good for our premier, bad for Toronto. If there's anything that needs to be said towards affordability, okay, if the city of Toronto can take a position to inform the world, the local investor, the international investor, that the city of Toronto would like blue-collar jobs to come back into different communities that have the space, okay? There's a lot of property available right now that are still zoned commercial, industrial, manufacturing. Now, whether a company is interested in purchasing an operation or a building that already exists, they do a renovation, they modernize it with newer equipment, train staff. This needs to be the cookie cutter of the future in order to have sustainability. There's no emphasis. It's being talked about like it's always been talked about. I want to actually do something where the international community pays attention, and to make it worthwhile, to book an airline ticket, book a hotel room, and meet with me in a mayor's office, okay, behind closed doors, and ask what their needs are, how the city can help in order to obtain jobs.
Wait. I don't know what's that about. Try this.
Hello, I'm back. This is working, yes. So, yeah, everything on the fly here, right? Live stream. I want people watching this live stream, or if they catch a replay, Toronto has so much potential. I don't understand why the city of Toronto looked at manufacturing jobs as being a bad idea. Forcing whatever manufacturing that the inner portion of the city of Toronto had at one time, pushing them out of the jurisdictional area of what Toronto is. Brampton, Pickering, Newmarket, Aurora. These jobs should be brought back. It is an absolute necessity, okay, for the sustainability and survival and for the peace of mind. If a person is to make sense to live in Toronto, I don't agree with all the policies with either the city or the province has made over the last 25, 30 years. But I would like to change that. I would like to redirect that. I would like to realign that. It's not a big deal. It takes planning. It takes discipline. Cooperation would be a good way to achieve these things with a cooperating city council. I don't know if any city council member will come out forthright and say, bringing back manufacturing jobs is a bad idea. Because if that's the case, then the person making that remark should be looked at as a very, very bad city councilor. So where factories are, or where factories were, down by the lakeshore, from Unwin Avenue, Leslie Avenue, in the beaches area heading west, on the southern portions of Lake Ontario, all throughout, I can't remember the name of the generating station. There's a hydro facility that used to generate power. The Unwin generator, or Irwin, I can't remember offhand. To bring manufacturing back would be a tough sell because of redevelopment proposals that have been on again, off again, and all that area needs to be cleaned up. Soil contamination of past whatever manufacturing that was there. But that's not to say that manufacturing couldn't be in the northern part, north of Eglinton Avenue, along Lawrence Avenue, south of Steeles, west of Port Union 401, east of the 427, which is the boundaries of the city of Toronto. It would be nice. It could be done. It would take planning. It would take cooperation. It would take discipline. But most of all, I have the desire as opposed to other people. Other people are given pageantry. Other people are offering nonsense. I will convey to you, and I speak to you from the heart, why am I running for mayor? I want my city to do better. I know my city can do better. Not by its populace, not by its people, by how it's being governed in order to reflect grace and livelihood, to restore unity within community. For the last 6 weeks, people announced, such as myself, I intend to run for mayor. To date, not one person has reflected how they would like to restore unity within community. They offer this, they offer that, they offer nonsense, they offer triviality, they offer absolutely no substance whatsoever. It's a shame. It's a real shame. So, if you can do me a huge favor, my name is Peter Hanges. The ballot number selection is number 51. I ask you for your vote. If you've already voted, thank you for participating in the vote process. If you haven't voted, If you're a reluctant voter, couldn't be bothered to vote anything on a municipal level, but yeah, provincial, I'll vote. Yeah, federal, I'll vote. But municipal, it is imperative, ever so more now than ever before, to come out and participate in the vote for Toronto Mayor. I ask for your help. I am one guy with many disciplines, with a lot of different experience to make the city run smoother, cleaner, more cooperative amongst its citizenry, amongst professional services and staff coming out of the city of Toronto, and points in between. My final words. As I say goodnight right now, you can look forward to additional live streams as the days come forward. Hold on.
And YouTube.
Please make an effort. Do me a huge favor. Make an effort and give time to radio news, to televised news, social media, where these top 5, top 6 candidates, top 7 candidates, where they are as far as a point of view, an opinion, a pledge. They plan on this and they plan on that. If you find, as I have found, that they're very, very superficial, they don't even scratch the surface with anything that could be a betterment for everybody in Toronto. Voter, non-voter, Canadian citizen, newly emigrated, permanent resident. I have everybody in mind in order to be successful. So that's why I say, please take to heart what is being spoken of right now. And as the days go forward for another 2 weeks, whatever debate that they might be invited at. But for some reason, I have a campaign office at 821 Pape Avenue. I paid for it up front. I paid insurance. I've notified media with a really, really simple press release on more than one occasion. And nobody's gotten back to me because they want to keep it within the top 5, top 6, top 7. And if the one that is being ever so heralded as the one that's going to cross the finish line Monday, June 26th, I want to put a stop to that. They can only bring more of the bad that we've already experienced as a city. Okay? And it's only going to get worse. Only the chosen few will make bank. And for the rest of us, if we think we're scrambling right now to make ends meet, to make sense of things, people have told me over the last how many weeks, I just can't believe the amount of homelessness, that despair, okay, that's attached with where these people are at. People are just shocked. I pay my taxes. Where did this money go? Well, see, I know where the money has gone. And I know how to redirect it and actually put it to good use in order for us to pick up the pieces and move on with our lives. I intend to make the city a better place for everybody. Remember my campaign slogan, it is time to restore balance and unity in the city. And with your help, obtaining your vote, I can be in a position to undertake these tasks and many more. I thank you very much for watching. Please check your social media feeds over the next couple of days for further announcements of doing live streams. The purpose being, don't be misled, because now I find myself with the need every couple of days, whatever I spoke of tonight, to keep an eye on what's been talking about. I'm going to keep an eye on, today being Monday, what's going to be talked about Tuesday, what's going to be talked about Wednesday. And depending on what information I gather, this person said this or what have you, in order to reflect somewhat quickly what is being talked about. I don't want people to be misled. Please don't take happy talk over substance. Please don't be misled. Okay? There's intentionality out there that doesn't have your best interest at heart or mine. Win or lose, I want to go back to private life. I want to win. I'm in this to win this. It's not an ego thing. I see my city decaying. I see my city, just crumbling, by what decisions have taken place. And over the next couple of days, as information comes in, I heard this on the radio, I heard this on TV, I heard this in private conversations with people. I will come back and I'll be a lot more aggressive. So for now, I say thank you very much. I'm signing off from this live stream.